Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. The Junior Indaba kicked off in Johannesburg this week, with Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer in attendance. He joins me today to unpack the event's headlines. Welcome, Martin.
Morning, Sashni.
Now, government and the IDC have partnered to establish a junior miners fund for exploration and investment capital for black-owned emerging miners.
Oh, this is a fantastic development because exploration has been badly neglected, and coupled to this is going to be a 20 billion rand investment in the Council for Geoscience. This is also fantastic news because up to now our Council for Geoscience has been too active outside the country, inactive inside the country, on the basis that everything's been explored here. That is not the case, especially with new technology. You need to really go into much more detail. Hopefully we'll have a situation where people will know what is available, just as they do in other countries of Africa, that are less mining orientated than we are. The cadasters are available. You can sit in New York and find out what's available in Mozambique. You can't even do that here. If you go to Pretoria, you still don't know what's going on. There seems to have been a lot of duplication of ownership of rights. I mean, it is really needs to be cleaned up, and hopefully with this Council of Geoscience getting that sort of funding, they will be available to establish exactly where there are valuable mineral and metal assets. And I mean, I just bumped into a few guys there, and they were saying they were just up in one of the provinces and they've discovered Andalusite. I mean, there's so much stuff around there. We really are blessed with incredible mineral and metal wealth, and the way we're managing it is abysmal. And now we've got the Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources. He was there. He's a long surviving person as a Deputy Minister, Godfrey Oliphant, and he was outlining how they're going to do this. He also indicated that they hope to get, in certain circumstances, a solution to the Zamazamas. And we'll see today, Thursday, there's going to be an announcement in Kimberley where the Zamazamas will have an elevated status. They'll be called Kimberley Artisanal Miners. And they will get access to certain assets. And the one asset that they will deal with are what they call the floors. So at least we don't have deep, dark and dangerous. It's all surface, and then also they'll have a tailings dump. And the history of those floors is that De Beers was mining so many decades ago that there wasn't crushing. So they used to use oxen to pull heavy crushers along the ground. And the diamonds used to be, the diamond bearing material used to be crushed by these heavy rollers being pulled by oxen. And because of that, a lot of diamond chips have ended up deep, well, not too deep, but below the surface, very shallow in fact, but below the surface. And the artisanal miners with a new status, they'll get access to this now. They will also get access to a low yielding tailings dump. Now it just sounds appropriate, that you can actually create wealth at low cost. These people are prepared to work at risk. So if they don't find anything, they don't get any remuneration. If they do find something, and that's the way to deal with these assets. Now the minister was talking about a situation where, because they are now formal, they can also go and trade it formally, which will change everything, because he said they discovered that a diamond discovered by these Zamazamas was then sold to a formal miner in the area for 3 million. So they got 3 million rand for this. The formal miner then took it to the tender process in Kimberley. He got 21 million rand. So, they're trying to say, look, a lot of the risk can be taken out of this, because these people could get a much better return if they're formal. So it could be, the answer to a maiden's prayer. But other people raised at the junior mining that these floors and this tailings dump were part of the assets of Ikapa Mining joint venture. And they were claiming that this asset is worth 30 million rand, which is being handed over now free, gratis and for nothing to the Zamazamas. Now, if there is a value on this, and I suppose you'd have to get an independent auditor in to see whether it's really 30 million, but there's going to be a value there, no doubt about that. it could be a situation where whoever hands over this sort of right maybe could get a small royalty. That hasn't been established yet. That might be a little bit fairer in the whole thing. But as it stands now, I mean, I haven't heard any complaints from Petra Diamonds. I haven't been hearing, and they're part of that Ikapa Mining. I haven't heard an official complaint from them. But this was a bit of feedback that we got, that, perhaps there could be a royalty link of some sort to compensate the people that are handing over these assets.
Now, mining legislation has also been in the spotlight with concerns around a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah, this, created great concern that, what is being demanded. A law demands from the likes of Anglo-American, BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto, the demands it makes on those very big, wealth-creating operations, they impose that same law on a tiny startup that is really a wealth consumer. So, you're consuming wealth someone else's wealth at that stage because it's high risk. You're drilling in the ground and you don't know whether you're going to find anything and you don't know what the value is going to be. The same conditions apply to them as apply to the huge wealth creators. And when they positioned it in that sense, I think one got the realization that you can't do this. The one-size-fits-all just doesn't work. And it's so disturbing because we know what's happened in Canada and we know what's happened now in Australia with their new incentive for exploration. And then we still come with this 12J. I hope 12J works, but it was to some extent queried seriously at the top level of this junior mining, but perhaps it hasn't been interrogated correctly. Maybe there are people there who can explain to us this is really good. But there was a suggestion that it's had unintended consequences. And so you introduce something for mining. By and large, mining hasn't taken this up, but it incentivizes new shopping centers, they said. Now, this is totally unintended consequences. We're already overshopped. And this is what worries me a bit about the Treasury. We had that situation where a former Minister of Finance promised that we'd get a flow-through scheme in the next budget. When the next budget came, he said, no, we've got something much better. And he gazetted something so parsimonious that not one mining company took it up, but a whole lot of boutiques took it up. Now, are we having this problem, that it's just a pride? You don't want to take up what Canada has. But there, Canada's flying this thing. And you don't want to just copy them. You want to come up with something better. But that's what worried about me. It worried me about the Treasury. When I met a few of those officials who were involved with the scheme, they were so arrogant and so self-righteous. They had no interest of South Africa at heart at all. It was just their big thumping on the chest and giving me a list of people who had actually taken up this mining incentive. I said, look, there's the name of one mining company here. Yeah. And I phoned that mining company and they said, no, we've already dropped that. It just is so inappropriate, so stingy. We've dropped it. Yet this fellow from Treasury was arrogant. In fact, he was belittling the media around him and almost saying, we won't sit next to media. They're too low class. We are elevated above them. And you wonder about some of these Treasury officials. Do they really have South Africa at heart, or are they really just so Cape orientated? They don't see the big picture. And so I hope we've come around that because South Africa's hurting.
Now, lastly, there is renewed hope in another commodity boom in the event of a capex return.
We're seeing now the report from people who've just done surveys coming through at the Junior Indaba. They were reporting incredible turnaround, a remarkable, that was the word, turnaround in mining. We're sitting in South Africa thinking that, wow, there's been no turnaround because we just see problems here. We're heavily orientated toward precious metals. They're not performing. Platinum's not performing. So we see a very bad downturn. We almost see, we're right at the bottom somewhere, or are we? We might fall even further. Everywhere else in the world, they're smiling because you just see, they spoke of profits being up 50% and the new theme of the corporates being CapEx, capital investment, get in there, whereas people have been not putting any capital into projects, now seeing they've got to do it. But they did caution that this boom, which they still put in inverted commas because they're not sure whether it's sustainable, is very different. You know, the last one, the demand was created by genuine factors, you know, urbanization, industrialization, creating that demand, genuine demand. They say the demand now is a bit worrying because it's around policy, it's around protectionism and trade wars, you know, started by Trump, and it's around geopolitical tensions. That's not very appealing to me. You know, one would prefer that genuine boom. So maybe we're missing another boom, but perhaps it's a fool's boom. You know, I don't know. We'll see about that. But in the meantime, we need to really sort ourselves out. I mean, this sort of delay is hurting the people of South Africa. You know, our grandchildren are going to suffer from this. Our children are going to suffer just because of negligence by the state, and also in terms of incentivization, absolute stupidity from the Treasury, always fiddling around, not wanting to follow a tried and proven method. I mean, even the incentive that they're using in Australia now is largely around what the Canadians had with the flow through, and they've had it for 60 years. You know, no wonder the economy has developed like that, and we're still fiddling around. We'll stop fiddling.
Thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.